Paragon অর্থ উৎকর্ষের আদর্শ, সম্পূর্ণতার আদর্শ, model of perfection.
A paragon means someone or something that is the very best. The English noun paragon comes from the Italian word paragon, which is a touchstone, a black stone that is used to tell the quality of gold. Paragon applies to someone who is a model of perfection in some quality or trait. We link paragon with other words that follow it, such as paragon of virtue or paragon of patience.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Paragon, which is a slipper brand, makes products that are models for perfection. Or Paragon equals Aragon. Aragon in the movie Lord of the Rings was a perfect soldier.
Paragon অর্থ উৎকর্ষের আদর্শ, সম্পূর্ণতার আদর্শ, model of perfection. Partisan অর্থ পক্ষপাতমূলক, one-sided, prejudiced, committed to a party.
Partisan can be used to describe rabid supporters of any person or activity. In American English, however, it is most often used to refer to politics and the American two-party system of Democrats and Republicans. If something is prejudicial towards a particular point of view, you can call it partisan. You'll often hear about partisan politics in the US, since politicians seem to be completely devoted to the agendas of their own parties.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Party, think of a political party, plus son, so a father who is favoring his son's political party, instead of a good party, which is a partisan or one-sided act.
Partisan অর্থ পক্ষপাতমূলক, one-sided, prejudiced, committed to a party. Pathological অর্থ রোগ সংক্রান্ত, pertaining to disease.
Pathological comes from a Greek word, pathologikos, which means treating of diseases. Pathos means suffering. Anyone who studies or works with diseases, from their causes to their symptoms, identifies how the disease affects its victims, in other words, its pathological effects. If something is caused by a physical or mental disease, it is pathological. Someone with a pathological compulsion for cleanliness might scrub the floors for hours every night.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Remember the word pathology lab, where different tests are run to diagnose disease.
Pathological অর্থ রোগ সংক্রান্ত, pertaining to disease. Paucity অর্থ স্বল্পতা, অভাব, scarcity.
One good way to remember the meaning of paucity is that it's a bit like pauper, as in The Prince and the Pauper. The prince had too much money, and the pauper had a paucity. The word paucity means not enough of something. If you've got a paucity of good cheer, for example, you'd better cheer up.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Paucity is an insufficient quantity or number. Paucity equals pow plus city, replace pow equals poor. So, remember poor city has scarcity.
Paucity অর্থ স্বল্পতা, অভাব, scarcity. Pedantic অর্থ বিচার বুদ্ধিহীন পণ্ডিত সুলভ, আচার সর্বস্ব, লোক দেখানো. Showing off learning, bookish.
Pedantic means, like a pedant, someone who's too concerned with literal accuracy or formality. It's a negative term that implies someone is showing off book learning or trivia, especially in a tiresome way. There's nothing wrong with focusing on the details, but someone who is pedantic makes a big display of knowing obscure facts and details.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Ped, to do with a child. Pedantic equals ped plus anti plus c, therefore not childlike, corrupted mind, not innocent like child, show off bookish learning to meet their greed.
Pedantic অর্থ বিচার বুদ্ধিহীন পণ্ডিত সুলভ, আচার সর্বস্ব, লোক দেখানো. Showing off learning, bookish. Penchant অর্থ অনুরাগ আসক্তি প্রবৃত্তি strong inclination liking
Penchant is borrowed from French, which literally means inclined. In both French and English, speakers have long used the idea of inclination metaphorically. A hillside can be inclined in one direction or another, and so can a person's thoughts. But in English, penchant is only for desires. A penchant is a strong preference or tendency. If you have a penchant for pizza, you either eat it daily or wish you did.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. P plus enchant, something that enchants you. You have a strong liking for that.
penchant অর্থ অনুরাগ আসক্তি প্রবৃত্তি strong inclination liking penury অর্থ দীনতা অল্পতা অভাব severe poverty stinginess
Penury comes from the Latin word penuria, which sounds like something contagious, and actually means scarcity. It's not a word that turns up often in casual conversation or even on nightly newscasts. You're more apt to spot it in a college textbook or maybe an editorial in the New York Times. Penury means extreme poverty to the point of homelessness and begging in the streets. Economic downturns, job loss, shopping sprees, and weekends at the high rollers table in Vegas can lead to penury.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Penury, lack of pennies, no money.
penury অর্থ দীনতা অল্পতা অভাব severe poverty stinginess perennial অর্থ বহুবর্ষজীবী চিরজীবী something long lasting
Arguing with your roommate about who cleaned the bathroom last time might be a perennial argument. There is also a perennial plant, which lasts more than 2 years and usually reappears each spring because it produces flowers and seeds from the same root structure. Perennial comes from the Latin perennis, from the prefix per dash, through, plus annus, or year. Annus is also the source of our English word annual. An annual plant lives only 1 year or season. Perennial typically describes things that are permanent, constant, or repeated. If you fight with your parents every year over whether they really must invite your annoying cousins for Thanksgiving, you could call that a perennial conflict.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Perennial seems like the renal system which lasts for a lifelong period, so perennial rivers mean long-lasting rivers for years.
perennial অর্থ বহুবর্ষজীবী চিরজীবী something long lasting
Perfidious অর্থ বিশ্বাসঘাতক treacherous disloyal
If you betray people often, you're perfidious. Traitors are extremely perfidious. Besides betrayal, this word implies lying and maybe other kinds of awful behavior, like stealing and taking bribes.
If someone accuses you of being perfidious, you should probably be offended. It means underhanded, treacherous, deceitful, even evil.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Perfidious equals per plus fid. Remember per as destruction and fid as faith. So, it becomes destroy the faith or betray.
Perfidious অর্থ বিশ্বাসঘাতক treacherous disloyal Perfunctory অর্থ পুঙ্খানুপুঙ্খ নয় আগ্রহের অভাব Superficial, not thought of, lacking interest, care, or enthusiasm.
Perfunctory is from Latin perfunctus, from perfungi, to get through with, perform, formed from the Latin prefix per dash, completely, plus fungi, to perform.
A person who does something in a perfunctory way shows little enthusiasm or interest in what they are doing. Many of our everyday greetings are perfunctory. For example, when we say hello and how are you, we usually do so out of habit.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Perfunctory means done routinely and with little interest. So one may associate this with prefactory. Imagine a jaded factory worker stuck in their routine with very little interest in their work.
Perfunctory অর্থ পুঙ্খানুপুঙ্খ নয়, আগ্রহের অভাব. Superficial, not thought of, lacking interest, care, or enthusiasm. Permeable অর্থ ভেদযোগ্য, প্রবেশ্য. Penetrable, porous, allowing liquids or gas to pass through.
A permeable surface allows materials like liquids to pass through, either in or out. Inside the body, the walls of cells are permeable membranes that allow fluids and nutrients to get in and nourish the cells.
Something that is permeable can be passed through, especially by liquids or gases. I wish I hadn't worn my permeable sweater to the picnic when the weatherman called for thunderstorms. The rain seeped right through the fabric, soaking me to the skin.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Permeable equals permittable, permits to flow or enter is permeable.
Permeable অর্থ ভেদযোগ্য, প্রবেশ্য. Penetrable, porous, allowing liquids or gas to pass through. Pervasive অর্থ ব্যাপক, spread throughout.
Ever notice how certain trends seem to spread all over the place? When something, like a hairstyle, is super common, it's pervasive. Pervasive things can't be escaped. Playing video games is pervasive among kids.
When something is pervasive, it's everywhere. Common things are pervasive, like greed and cheap perfume.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Pervasive, divide the word as per plus vasive. Replace vasive as massive. Massive means large, heavy. Spread massively is pervasive.
Pervasive অর্থ ব্যাপক, spread throughout. Phlegmatic অর্থ সহজে উত্তেজিত হয় না এমন. Calm, not easily disturbed.
Phlegmatic has roots in that colorless, mucousy stuff called phlegm, but people who are phlegmatic aren't called that because they have lots of mucus. They are just a little dull in expressing feelings or showing emotion.
It may be they're training more than their natural behavior, but those palace guards, who wear the red coats and big hats and show absolutely no expression on their faces are phlegmatic. Phlegmatic people show less emotion on the outside, but they may be jumping up and down on the inside.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Phlegmatic, plague, flag. When we hoist a flag, we have the automatic reaction be calm and unexcited.
Phlegmatic অর্থ সহজে উত্তেজিত হয় না এমন. Calm, not easily disturbed. Piety অর্থ ভক্তি, ধর্মানুরাগ. Devoutness, reverence for God.
Piety is devotion to God or to religious practices. Nuns who pray all day long are famous for their piety. If you have filial piety, it means you're devoted to your parents.
Piety is sometimes used in a disapproving way to mean that the person is only pretending to be devoted or good. It was borrowed from the French word piété, meaning piety or pity, ultimately from the Latin pious, devoted, kind. This Latin adjective is also the source of English adjective pious.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Divide the word like pi plus eddy. Pi is for and eddy is for deity. We take blessing of God, deity, by bowing towards the legs of the idol. So we are religious. Remember as if it has something to do with deity. Piety and deity.
Piety অর্থ ভক্তি, ধর্মানুরাগ. Devoutness, reverence for God. Placate অর্থ প্রশান্ত করা. Pacific, conciliate.
If you placate someone, You stop them from being angry by giving them something or doing something that pleases them. If your dad is annoyed that you forgot to take out the trash, you might be able to placate him by doing the dishes.
If your little sister is mad that the dog ate her favorite teddy bear, you could placate her by buying her an ice cream cone. A near synonym for placate is appease. The origin of placate is Latin placare, to calm or soothe. The related Latin verb placere is the source of English please.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Placate. Plate plus cake equals a plate of cake which calms and appeases.
Placate অর্থ প্রশান্ত করা, pacify, conciliate. Plasticity অর্থ নমনীয়তা, ability to be molded.
Plasticity means changeability or moldability. Clay has a lot of plasticity, but a rock has almost none. It helps to think of plastic when learning what plasticity means. See how plastic can be molded into all sorts of things, and even when it's in a totally solid form, it's not hard like stone.
Plasticity refers to things that can still change their shape or function. The brain is something with high plasticity. If you have a brain injury, other parts of the brain can change to pick up the slack. Anything that is capable of evolving or being reshaped has plasticity.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Plasticity equals plastic. By heating plastic we can mold it to any shape pretty easily without any breakage.
Plasticity অর্থ নমনীয়তা, ability to be molded. Platitude অর্থ নির্স মামুলি উক্তি বা বক্তব্য, trite remark, commonplace statement.
The English language contains many old, worn-out cliches, or platitudes. Phrases like "ants in your pants" and "as American as apple pie" are so overused that they've almost lost their meaning. People rely on these tired old remarks when they can't think of anything original to say.
If an executive gives a speech that begins, "This business is all about survival of the fittest," you need to burn the midnight oil and take one for the team. His employees might get sick of listening to these meaningless cliches and tell him to cut the platitudes.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Platitude equals please plus attitude. Please attitude is always shows poor behavior.
Platitude অর্থ নির্স মামুলি উক্তি বা বক্তব্য, trite remark, commonplace statement. Plethora অর্থ আধিক্য, excess, overabundance.
Plethora means an abundance or excess of something. If you have 15 different people who want to take you on a date, you have a plethora of romantic possibilities.
Plethora comes from the Greek for fullness. Although it was originally used only in old-fashioned medicine to describe the condition of having too much blood, we use it to talk about any excessive supply. If you run a theatre and all the seats are taken, that's a full house.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. You will be full. Plethora equals playthoda for few moment, but child resist that he will play more and more and more, thus excessive.
Plethora অর্থ আধিক্য, excess, overabundance. Plummet অর্থ তীব্রভাবে পড়া, fall sharply.
The verb plummet means to drop sharply, like eagles that plummet toward earth, seeking prey, or school attendance that plummets when there is a flu outbreak. To correctly pronounce plummet, say plummet. This verb describes something that drops sharply or quickly, like a roller coaster that plummets down a hill, temperatures that plummet overnight, or sales of roses and candy that plummet after Valentine's Day. Memory aid to remember this word. Plummet rhymes with comet, which falls so sharply. Plummet sounds like planet, something very very heavy. A heavy thing will fall or drop sharply.
Plummet অর্থ তীব্রভাবে পড়া, fall sharply.
Precipitate অর্থ বর্ষণ করা, প্রচণ্ড বেগে প্রস্থান করানো. Rash, premature, hasty, sudden.
Precipitate usually means bringing something on, or making it happen, and not always in a good way. An unpopular verdict might precipitate violence, or one false step at the Grand Canyon could precipitate you down into the gorge.
Precipitate, as a verb, can also mean specifically to fall from clouds such as rain, snow, or other forms of precipitation. When used as an adjective, precipitate means hasty or acting suddenly.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Precipitate equals pre plus anticipate. That means you don't think or anticipate before you do something. You do it in rash or haste.
Precipitate অর্থ বর্ষণ করা, প্রচণ্ড বেগে প্রস্থান করানো. Rash, premature, hasty, sudden. Precursor অর্থ অগ্রদূত, পূর্বগামী বা পূর্ববর্তী ব্যক্তি. Forerunner
You've heard the old saying, pride comes before the fall. Well, you could just as easily say pride is a precursor to the fall. A precursor is something that happens before something else.
You don't have to be a dead languages scholar to guess that this word springs from a Latin source, precursor, to run before. A precursor is usually related to what it precedes. It's a catalyst or a harbinger leading to what follows or providing a clue that it's going to happen.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Precursor equals pre, before, plus cursor, that points out. So, precursor is something that points out in advance. Forerunner, she prepared him for the cursory scene he was about to witness, serving as a precursor.
Precursor অর্থ অগ্রদূত, পূর্বগামী বা পূর্ববর্তী ব্যক্তি. Forerunner Presumptuous অর্থ অহংকারী, স্বাধীনতা গ্রহণকারী. Arrogant, taking liberties.
When someone takes liberties, doing things too boldly, you can describe them with the adjective presumptuous.
Presumptuous comes from the Latin verb presumere, which means to take for granted. It means taking for granted your access to someone or power to do something. It's a very satisfying and effective word because it belittles and criticizes at the same time.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Presumptuous equals pre, prior, plus sumptuous, tempestuous, thus the one who is tempestuous prior to coming. Pre-assuming throw, us, he is pre-assuming that he can throw us, shows his ignorance and overconfidence.
Presumptuous অর্থ অহংকারী, স্বাধীনতা গ্রহণকারী. Arrogant, taking liberties. Preamble অর্থ প্রস্তাবনা, মুখ বন্ধ. ভূমিকা introductory statement.
A preamble is a brief introduction to a speech, like the preamble to the Constitution that starts out with the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, do ordain and establish this Constitution.
Preamble comes from the Latin preambulus, which means walking before. And that's what a preamble does, it walks before a speech, often explaining what's coming. It's like the White Rabbit introducing the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Pre plus amble equals preamble. Pre represents before, amble is moving. A speaker, before heading to main topic, starts with an introductory statement and then elaborate the topic.
Preamble অর্থ প্রস্তাবনা, মুখ বন্ধ. ভূমিকা introductory statement. Precarious অর্থ অনিশ্চিত, নিরাপত্তাহীন, বিপজ্জনক। Uncertain, risky.
Grab for the adjective precarious when something is unstable, dangerous, or difficult and likely to get worse. Are you totally broke and the people you owe money to keep calling? You're in a precarious financial situation.
The Latin root of precarious means obtained by asking or praying. This fits well as precarious always signals that help is needed desperately. If your life is precarious or you are in a precarious situation, things could become difficult, maybe even dangerous, for you.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Precarious equals PRE plus care plus IOUS. We have to take care while doing something risky so that it does not go wrong.
Precarious. অর্থ অনিশ্চিত, নিরাপত্তাহীন, বিপজ্জনক। Uncertain, risky. Pragmatic. অর্থ ব্যবহারিক, আদর্শবাদী বিপরীতে, কোনো কিছুর ব্যবহারিক মূল্য বা প্রভাবের সাথে সংশ্লিষ্ট। Practical, as opposed to idealistic, concerned with the practical worth or impact of something.
To describe a person or a solution that takes a realistic approach, consider the adjective pragmatic. The 4-year-old who wants a unicorn for her birthday isn't being very pragmatic.
The opposite of idealistic is pragmatic, a word that describes a philosophy of doing what works best. From Greek pragma, deed, the word has historically described philosophers and politicians who were concerned more with real-world application of ideas than with abstract notions.
Pragmatic equals to something that sounds like problematic. A pragmatic way of dealing with something is based on practical considerations, rather than theoretical ones.
Pragmatic. অর্থ ব্যবহারিক, আদর্শবাদী বিপরীতে, কোনো কিছুর ব্যবহারিক মূল্য বা প্রভাবের সাথে সংশ্লিষ্ট। Practical, as opposed to idealistic, concerned with the practical worth or impact of something. Press. অর্থ ছিদ্রযুক্ত, ঝাঁঝরা। সচ্ছিদ্র. Full of pores, like a sieve.
If something is full of tiny holes or openings, you can describe it as porous. A sponge is porous, and if the border between countries is open for anyone to cross easily, it too can be called porous.
You can see the word pore, meaning a tiny opening, in porous. When potters make a mug, they use special glazes to seal the porous clay, which otherwise would absorb the liquid you put in the mug.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. When we see pores, holes, in our skin we get anxious. So, porous equals pore plus us. Full of holes or pores.
Press. অর্থ ছিদ্রযুক্ত, ঝাঁঝরা। সচ্ছিদ্র. Full of pores, like a sieve. Prevaricate. অর্থ কৌশলে সত্যকে এড়িয়ে চলা, সত্যকে অস্বীকার করা। The trick is to avoid the truth, to deny the truth.
When you prevaricate, you lie or mislead. Now, go ahead and tell me whether you already knew that meaning, and don't prevaricate about it. Give me the story straight.
While prevaricate basically means to lie, it also has the sense of making it hard to know exactly what the lie was. You talk in a confusing way, go back and forth, and as deliberately as possible mislead someone.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Prevaricate equals pre, before, plus var, truth, plus ik, gate. Before truth you have kept a gate. Hence you are lying or hiding the truth.
Prevaricate. অর্থ কৌশলে সত্যকে এড়িয়ে চলা, সত্যকে অস্বীকার করা। The trick is to avoid the truth, to deny the truth. Pristine. অর্থ আগের সময়ের বৈশিষ্ট্য, আদিম, নির্ভেজাল। Characteristic of earlier times, primitive, unspoiled.
If something is pristine, it's immaculately clean or has never been used. So please check your shoes before walking on a pristine white carpet.
A long time ago, pristine was used to describe primitive or ancient things. It wasn't until 1899 that the word grew to mean unspoiled or pure. Ecologists strive to preserve pristine rainforests, just as vacationers are always looking for a pristine strip of beach to lounge on.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Pristine equals print plus first. First printed books are fresh and clean. Sounds as Listerine, that keeps our mouth clean.
Pristine অর্থ আগের সময়ের বৈশিষ্ট্য, আদিম, নির্ভেজাল. Characteristic of earlier times, primitive, unspoiled. Probity অর্থ ন্যায়পরায়ণতা, পবিত্রতা, ধর্মনিষ্ঠা. Uprightness, incorruptibility.
Though probity sounds like what you might do with a sharp stick, it actually means being morally and ethically above reproach, or having integrity.
If you show fiscal probity, it means you are responsible and ethical with your money. The story of George Washington chopping down the cherry tree and refusing to lie about it is a story of probity.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Remember it as probe with integrity means keep moral principles intact, be honest. When police bids prisoner, probity, with probe. Then he becomes honest. Probe plus it probe your conscience to grow in uprightness, honesty.
Probity অর্থ ন্যায়পরায়ণতা, পবিত্রতা, ধর্মনিষ্ঠা. Uprightness, incorruptibility. Problematic অর্থ সন্দেহজনক, বিভ্রান্তিকর. Doubtful, unsettled, questionable, perplexing.
Something problematic poses a problem or causes difficulties. Your ambitions to become the next great leader of Spain are great, but your inability to speak Spanish might prove problematic.
Around 1600, the word problematical was shortened and problematic was born. Perhaps they wanted to make it less problematic for spellers. It's an adjective that means tough, hard to solve, or even questionable.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Problematic related to problem. Remember doubtful things bring problems.
Problematic অর্থ সন্দেহজনক, বিভ্রান্তিকর. Doubtful, unsettled, questionable, perplexing. Prodigal অর্থ অপচয়কারী, বেপরোয়াভাবে অর্থের ব্যবহার. Wasteful, reckless with money.
Use the adjective prodigal to describe someone who spends too much money, or something very wasteful. Your prodigal spending on fancy coffee drinks might leave you with no money to buy lunch.
Prodigal usually applies to the spending of money. In the Bible, the prodigal son leaves home and wastes all his money. The noun forms of the word, meaning a wasteful person or one who returns home after a period of bad behavior, relate to this biblical story.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Prodigal equals prody, proud, plus gal, girl, equals the girls who is having excessive proud is always wasteful, or divide prodigal as pro plus di plus gal equals producers and directors are using gals for sex. It means they are profligate.
Prodigal অর্থ অপচয়কারী, বেপরোয়াভাবে অর্থের ব্যবহার. Wasteful, reckless with money. Profound অর্থ গভীর, ভাষা নয়, সম্পূর্ণ. Deep, not superficial, complete.
When you need a word that's deeper than deep, consider profound. A philosopher is likely to make many profound pronouncements.
Profundus literally means deep in Latin, and profound had the same meaning when it entered English in the 14th century. But even then, it also meant figuratively deep, that is, very great or intense. The new laws have had a profound impact.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. An easy way to learn the word profound would be to break it up into professional and found. one can remember that anything that a professional found has to be good, deep.
Profound. অর্থ গভীর, ভাষা নয়, সম্পূর্ণ. Deep, not superficial, complete. Prohibitive. অর্থ কিছু ক্রয় বা ব্যবহার প্রতিরোধ করার প্রবণতা, প্রতিরোধ বা নিষেধ করতে আগ্রহী. Tending to prevent the purchase or use of something, inclined to prevent or forbid.
That expensive Ferrari in the showroom? You may want it, but its price is prohibitive, which means the price is discouragingly high and likely to deter you from buying.
Prohibitive originally referred to something, often a law, that prohibits or forbids something, but it came to mean conditions, often prices or taxes, so high or great they restrict or prevent something. To some, the cost of childcare is prohibitive.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Prohibitive equals forbid. Remember the word forbid. Forbid prevents something or someone.
Prohibitive. অর্থ কিছু ক্রয় বা ব্যবহার প্রতিরোধ করার প্রবণতা, প্রতিরোধ বা নিষেধ করতে আগ্রহী. Tending to prevent the purchase or use of something, inclined to prevent or forbid.
Proliferate অর্থ দ্রুত বৃদ্ধি, ছড়িয়ে পড়া. Grow rapidly, spread, multiply.
When something proliferates, it's growing, spreading, or multiplying really quickly. Bunny rabbits have a habit of proliferating, as do dandelions in untended gardens and funny YouTube videos on the internet.
Proliferate was originally a biological term used to describe the growth of cells and producing offspring. It wasn't until 1961 that we started to use proliferate more generally to talk about everything from the spread of nuclear weapons to the wide growth of Walmart.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Petrol rate increase rapidly and quickly these days. Pro-life rate, in our professional, pro-life, we should work at faster rate to grow rapidly. Proliferate অর্থ দ্রুত বৃদ্ধি, ছড়িয়ে পড়া. Grow rapidly, spread, multiply.
Propensity অর্থ প্রাকৃতিক প্রবণতা, natural inclination.
A propensity is a natural tendency to behave in a certain way. We all have propensities, things we tend to do. Dogs have a propensity to bark, and many people have a propensity for getting annoyed by it.
If you have a propensity for something, then it's something that comes naturally to you or something you just do a lot. Some people have a propensity to laugh. Other people have a propensity for making others laugh, or for being generous, or for getting angry.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Propensity can be best remembered in funny way. Break propensity to prop and city. One can use the fact that villagers have an inclination towards the city. This would lead to propensity being associated with an inclination, a sort of natural tendency.
Propensity অর্থ প্রাকৃতিক প্রবণতা, natural inclination. Property অর্থ তুষ্ট করা, appease.
If you forgot flowers on your grandma's birthday, you can still propitiate her by sending a bouquet the next day. Propitiate means to appease someone or make them happy by doing a particular thing. Handy strategy for lovers, too.
One of the most common uses of propitiate historically was in the sense of appeasing the gods, often with a gift in the form of an animal or human sacrifice. Fortunately, for most people today, flowers and candy will do the trick. But then again, some moms can be tough to appease.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Propitiate, pro plus pitai plus 8. Look at the first two, they sound like pro, 4, pitai, pity. That is for pity. Thus if you are for pity, you are certainly willing to make peace and allow pardon to be granted. You are pro-peace or for peace.
Property অর্থ তুষ্ট করা appease propriety অর্থ সঠিক আচরণ fitness correct conduct
Propriety is following what is socially acceptable in speech and behavior. Your little brother might offend your sense of propriety by burping loudly at the dinner table.
Propriety is like the noun form of proper and appropriate. It comes from the same root as the word property, in the sense of a distinctive character or quality. The opposite of propriety is impropriety, meaning rude or inappropriate.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Divide the word as proper plus iety. Proper sounds like proper. Hence it refers to being proper or correct in conduct. Properly plus rightly equals propriety.
propriety অর্থ সঠিক আচরণ fitness correct conduct proscribe অর্থ বহিষ্কৃত করা নির্বাসিত করা অবৈধ ঘোষণা করা ostracize banish outlaw
To prescribe something is to forbid or prohibit it, as a school principal might prescribe the use of cell phones in class.
Proscribe sounds similar to the word prescribe, but be careful, these words are essentially opposite in meaning. While proscribe means forbid, prescribe is used when a doctor recommends a medicine or remedy.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. It can be written like this: pro means before plus scribe means to write. So a writer whose writing are prohibited to be published in that country. Selling drugs without prescription is prescribed.
proscribe অর্থ বহিষ্কৃত করা নির্বাসিত করা অবৈধ ঘোষণা করা ostracize banish outlaw pungent অর্থ স্বাদ বা গন্ধে তীক্ষ্ণ মর্মপীড়াদায়ক stinging sharp in taste or smell caustic
Use pungent to describe a taste or smell that gives a sharp sensation. What is that pungent odor? Is a polite way of suggesting that someone in the room has BO.
The ultimate source of the word pungent is Latin pungere, to prick, sting. Ginger and mustard seed are examples of pungent spices. Limburger cheese has the distinction of being the most pungent of all cheeses.
Memory aid to help you memorize this. Pun plus, negligent. As you know, punning means playing with words. So if we pun negligently on others, it may hurt them. Pungent, pun plus gent. Pun rhymes with non, and gent rhymes with gentle. It means not gentle or sharp or strong.
pungent অর্থ স্বাদ বা গন্ধে তীক্ষ্ণ মর্মপীড়াদায়ক stinging sharp in taste or smell caustic